we are discussing about the collection, and then Java supports to facilitate different operations on the collection. In the last two video lectures, we have covered about the different views that a collection can be seen from the Java programming point of view or Java facilities point of view. There are many activities, many methods we have learned, and altogether we call them as a collection. Today we will discuss another important framework. This is exactly not as a part of Java collection framework, it is another framework. More precisely, it is called MAP framework. This framework, like Java collection framework, is defined in java.util package. Now, it is a different stock of collection. Different stock of collection means it represents the objects, or rather we can say data structures from the different viewpoint. This viewpoint is actually called map. Now, in this lecture, we will try to understand what are the composition of this map framework and what are the different classes and interfaces are there, so that map framework can be utilized by a programmer to develop his or her own application programs. Now, before going to take the actual discussion, I would like to tell about in what way the map framework is different than the collection framework that we have already studied. Now, in the collection framework, the data structure can be viewed either from indexed representation or sequential representation or linked representation, whatever it is there, and there are 5 different structures that we have already studied, namely arrays, linked list, stack and queue, and set. Now, there are 2 more structural concepts in the theory of computer science, that is, there are 2 more data structures. They are called tree and table. Somehow we have some idea about tree based representation of a set. Actually, in this sense, tree structure is used to maintain a collection in the form of a set and in the collection in the form of a tree itself. Now, anyway, so this tree is basically considered a new what is called the collection, and which is included in the another framework, the map framework. Other than this tree structure, there is another structure, it is called the table. So, table is also one sort of form, it is called the map framework. Now, here question arises that in what sense the 2 frameworks are different from each other, collection framework and map framework. In this regard, I just want to mention one thing. In the collection that we have learned, the objects are stored as a group of objects. They are stored either in array or in linked list or set, whatever it is, whereas in map framework objects are stored, but objects are stored with 2 what is called the entities. One entity is basically the object itself that needs to be stored, and another entity is called key of the objects. What is the concept of key? That I can explain you with a simple example. Consider books. There is a number of books that needs to be stored in a program, suppose. So, we can create a class book and accordingly create several objects of the type book. So, book is a book class can facilitate to create a collection of objects, they are called book objects. Now fine, this is good idea. So, this is the idea so far collection framework maintains, but the map framework enhance the concept little bit in a other sense to facilitate a faster retrieval, storing as well as reading the data from the memory. So, faster storing and as well as faster retrieval. Now, how it is possible? The idea it is basically incorporating key to each object. What is actually key? For a book object, for example, the accession number of the book is basically a key of the book. This means that if we give an input as an accession number, then a corresponding book can be retrieved, or if we want to store a book object, we can store both the information, that is the accession number and the object itself. Likewise, student record, for example, another example. Student record has many attributes like their name, their department, their date of joining, date of birth, marks obtained different courses like. So, a record can be of using many data in it. Now, in order to have a compact representation of the student, what we can use? We can use a number, let it be roll number. Roll number can be anything like anyway. So, what I can say is that objects along with a key, that means which is basically represents uniquely a particular objects, can be used to store and retrieve the information in an efficient way. Now, again let us come to the key. Key is what? As I said, key is an identification number like accession number or roll number. A key value can be of any type again. It can be integer, roll number say 1, 2, 3, 4 like. It can be a string like accession number may be A, then 2018 and B number say 4, 5. So, these are the string. String is basically alpha, is a collection of alphanumeric characters. Even it can be any objects again. So, a key can be anything. Now, what is the basic difference between the collection framework and map framework is that while we are storing or retrieving an element into a collection or from a collection, we in collection framework we only consider the object itself. Object can be of any type, whereas in case of map framework we consider two entities. One is called the key and another the object itself, where key and entity both can be of any type. So, this is the concept. Now, based on this concept, the idea it is that how the map framework Java developer has proposed. So, in this lecture we will try to have a quick understanding about the different compositions in the map framework. Compared to collection framework, map framework is relatively simple, is a small. It has only 3 interfaces, namely map, then sorted map and navigable map. So, 3 interfaces are in these 3 interfaces the different methods are declared, so that all these methods a Java programmer can use in their program to manipulate their collections, or we can say their maps. Now, as you know, all the interfaces needs to be implemented. So, for the implementation of all those interfaces, Java supports in java.util several classes, out of which abstract map is an abstract class, and there are several real classes are there like enum map, hash map, linked hash map, tree map, and some less important so far from the programmer's utility point of view are called weak hash map and identity hash map. All these classes are inherited from the abstract class abstract map. Abstract map implements map interface. Now, again in the interface hierarchy, sorted map is basically inherited from the map, and navigable map is basically inherited from the sorted map. And by virtue of inheritance, as you saw, whatever the methods those are there in map interface are also available in their sorted map or navigable map. And in addition, there are some of their own methods, those are defined their interface. And again I repeat, all classes basically implements all the methods. So, methods are declared in interface and they are actually implemented in the class. Therefore, using all these class, you can create objects of that particular class. For example, using hash map, you can create an object of hash map. Now, an object of hash map, as you know, it is basically represents a collection, and in this map framework a collection consists of two pairs values, one is called the key and another is the value itself. So, key and value, a group of keys and values constitute a collection in the map framework. So, this is basically the fundamental what is called the concept so far the map framework is concerned. Now, there are few interfaces we have already mentioned like map, stored map and navigable map. There is one inner class, it is basically defined within the map interface itself, it is called the map.entry. Now, so these are the interface total that is there in the map framework, and so far the classes are concerned as we have already mentioned, enum map, hash map, tree map, linked hash map and weak hash map and identity hash map are the classes those are defined there, and all these interfaces and classes are defined there in java.util package where collection framework is also defined there. Now, we will quickly have a quick round about the different interfaces those are there. First of all, the map, it is basically the parent of all the interfaces belongs to this map framework, and this map frameworks basically facilitates many methods which basically useful to manipulate any map of collection. Now, map entry is also is a inner class of this map, it also basically decides how an element, that means an element in map framework you can remember it is basically key value pair, unlike in collection only the value or object, here key and object pair in a map. So, this is basically inner class so far map.entry is concerned. Navigable map, it is basically like map only, but here in case of map, suppose you want to search a particular value or objects, and then to search it you have to provide a key. If you do not provide key, you will not be able to get search, that is one important concept. Okay? Even if you want to insert, first you decide a unique key. If the key is not unique, then it is again a problem, whatever it be. So, key has to be provided. Now, in case of map, exactly if the key matches with the stored elements those are there, then fine, you can retrieve it. If you do not find, then navigable map actually closest match nearby this one, it will say in some application it is required exactly not the key value, but near about the key value, so that you can finally filter it and then get the actual value if you want from the filtered value. And sorted map is same as map again, but the difference is that in case of map the elements, that means key value pair, are not necessarily to be stored in a order, but in case of sorted map all the objects are stored in the sorted order. Here sorted order is based on the key values. Okay, so these are the different maps interfaces, and now we will quickly check what are the different methods are there in the map interface. Now, map interface is a generic type, it basically represents this collection T, and T specifies the object of this one. Now, different methods those are there in the map framework I have listed in this tabular form, that is for your future consultation, so that you can go through this table and then learn each method separately, as in this short lectures period. So, it is not possible to discuss each and every method. But here I just want to highlight about what exactly the methods about. All these methods basically gives supports, gives basically the facilities in order to how a particular key value can be created, how key value and then object can be associated, how key value, given a key value, how a particular object can be searched, how given a key value and objects, how it can be inserted, how given a key value and object, how it can be removed, and so many things are there. Now, for example, here in the first method, that is the clear method. As the name implies, we are already familiar to the clear method, what it does for us in the context of collection. Here also clear method, if we call for a collection, that is a map collection, then it will clean all the entries those are there in the collection. So, it basically if you want to remove all the entries under the map collection, then it will, you can use this method. Now, compute here is basically the idea about how you can compute a key value for an object. So, this method sometimes required for a given object if you want to generate key values like this one. So, there are different compute methods, compute present, compute absent, simple compute. That means, if a key value is present, then how a new key value for a given object can be computed. If key value is absent, then what should be the methodology by which it can be computed, and so many things are there. Now, in addition to this, there are some methods are there which basically to know the status of the map collection. For example, the contents, content means if a particular object is present in the collection or not, and then the get method means given an object what is the key value, and vice versa, the given a key value what is the object, and put value also it is there. Equals method is also there. For example, how to find if the two objects are same or not, that belongs to this collection, and likewise. So, there are many methods like this. There are many methods to traverse the map collections also, merging the two collection into a single collection using merge method, and whether a collection is empty or not, all these things can be obtained. If you want to remove a particular elements from the map collection, you can use the remove method from there. Put method is there. Put conditionally, that means if a particular element is present in the collection already, then if you want to insert it, how it can be done. So, there are so many facilities that is given by the Java developer, and you can just simply as a fingertip use them in your program. Now, regarding how to use all those methods, how to create collection, whether it is a simple collection or map collection, we definitely study in due time, and then you will be able to understand the strength of the java.util. Now, this is the map framework and map interface, and you know map frameworks is the parent framework, parent interface, and there is another is called the sorted map, which basically inherits the map framework itself. And as I told you, the sorted map is similar to the map only, but only it basically stores the elements that is internally. You do not have to bother how to store. The Java compiler will take the enough what is called the facilities, enough what is called the step to add, if you want to add and to an existing collection a new object, then it will basically store them in a sorted fashion. So, basic idea of this sorted map interface is that faster retrieval, faster storing of the object compared to the simple map using the map methods. Likewise, the methods in map, in stored map also there are sorted map, there are many such methods available. They are actually, here is a mistake, it is not the stored map, it should be sorted map anyway. And so, they are basically same method in addition to all the method those are there in the map interface. Now, some new methods like comparator, that means if some objects needs to be considered which is not of numeric type, is a usually specially defined custom defined user type, then it is it is programmer's responsibility to define how two objects can be compared. So, compare to method we will discuss about how the method can be redefined for your own objects. So, that means you have to, this is a method, we can say the abstract method sort of thing, or the method it is there a default, and you can override this method according to your need in your class. So, whenever you define this class, you can create a compare to method which is an override. So, you can extend, if you create a new program, you can just extend sorted map, or you can extend hash map or linked hash map or tree map, whatever it is there, and then you redefine the comparator class there. Now, there is again few methods are there, those are special to this stored sorted map, like first key, as it represents that in the collection which is the starting key in the collection, it returns the key objects. Similarly, last key or just opposite to the first key, and then it can tail map. Tail map means if you can give a key value, then corresponding to this key value, what are the next objects having the key value after that one. So, this key is the lower bound, then what is the upper key values that is there. So, starting from the start values of the key. So, these are the few special method, those are there in the sorted map interface. Now, next let us come to the discussion of interface navigable map. It is just like a map only, but the idea is that here retrieval of entries based on the near about matches of the key values, the closest match that is based on the search. This is the only thing that it is the different here. It extends again sorted map and declares the behavior of map that supports for retrieval or addition or deleting, whatever it is there, same methods are there. So, there are few methods which are there in navigable map of its own. Here we have mentioned the methods. First of all, ceiling entry and floor entry are the two concepts that is used, that okay, what will be the highest value, what is the lowest value like, and there is another method like descending key set. That means, if you want to find in a descending order of the key values for a given key, you can use it, and there is a fast entry method, the floor entry method, the floor key method. These are the method basically related to key, how we can find its closest values to it, then higher key, the lower key, and then there is a navigable key. Those are the methods, higher entry method, and then head map method. All these methods are basically the different way that the key and value object pair can be managed, can be handled. So, that is why the different methods have been incorporated in the navigable map interface. And then map.entry is a inner class, it does not have much special about, but only it consider that how a key value pair can be entered into a map. So, it does not so much have its own much method, but only few methods are there, get key, get value, hash code create, set value create, and then whether the two values are equals or not, all these things are there. So, it is basically some peculiar reason of having a limited scope for the data security, the map.entry interface has been introduced. Now, let us come to the classes. There are few classes we have already mentioned. Apart from this abstract map, the other important classes those are there is enum map, the hash map, tree map, and linked hash map. So, mainly these are the four classes are very crucial and useful so far the map framework dealing is concerned. So, as a programmer you have very good knowledge about all these four classes. Now, again I repeat, all these four classes are basically the implementation of the interfaces that we have just now discussed, like map, that sorted map, and then navigable map, whatever it is. Now, this means that all the methods that we have discussed so far interface is concerned, they are implemented in the classes. In addition, some classes have their own methods also. So, if I do not mention any methods which already we have discussed about interface, it implies that these methods are by virtue of implementation are there. Now, we will discuss about which are the different methods are there in the in their own classes actually. Okay. So, we will discuss about, let us start about the enum map. Now, I just want to say enum is basically is a kind of object, like integer is a kind of object, float is a kind of object. enum is a kind of object. This basically the enum is a type of object, I can say. So, what is a type of object? It is basically enumerated. That means a particular value you can fix just like a enumerated value. For example, an object say Sunday, another object is Monday, another object is Tuesday. So, these are the basically enumerated object. I can say day is a enum type, and in this enum type what are the different values that is possible? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like this. So, 7 what is called objects. So, enumerated is basically just like a set, and it has only certain range of values which is possible for the type. So, enumerated is basically a special type, and it obviously all the elements those are there in the range are all unique. So, in that case enumerated is closely resembled with set type. Now, here so far map is concerned, each object should be associated with a key value. So, Sunday is an object, its key value may be I can give it 0, Monday is another object, I can give the key value 1, Tuesday is another object, I can key value 3. So, each key value is there. Now, if we want to create a large collection of type enum, then definitely for the fastest or efficient mechanism you should use both the key values as well as the enumerated values together. Now, this way this enum map is basically it is there, and as we can say that it basically extend abstract map for use with enum keys. So, here key is basically the enumerated type and object can be of any type like. Now, again enum map is a class. So, this means it has two elements, one is called the k extends enum, that means k always should be of enumerated type. Beyond any enumerated type it cannot be, that means k cannot be a number or it is a string like. So, this is the speciality so far this key values is concerned, because I told that key can be of any type. This means that any type means number or string or any user defined type, but for this enum map speciality the key value should be of enumerated type. And then V is the object, that values actually which you want to store. There means a key value should be enumerated type by which a particular object can be associated, and if we want to access a particular object then we should access through its enumerated key. And it has only few methods, these constructors, only 3 constructors. The first constructor as you see here, the enum, this is a very simple constructor. To create a collection, what we have to give the input is that what is the type of key values and key value itself. So, by this way an object can be created. And the second constructor basically it gives both key values and then the value itself. So, key is always the map key and extends what is called the V, and this is basically this is a bound is there, upper bound. So, that means it is basically applicable to map object only. And then this is another where we can give the extension, it is the same way, this basically map k and is basically the upper bound extends V and it is an enumerated map. So, these are different way, we will see exactly with an example how the different objects can be created using this map. Yes, one thing is that the enum map class, it does not have any exclusive method of its own. Now, next let us discuss about hashmap class. Hashmap class again is a child class of abstract map. This means that whatever the methods those are declared there in map is also accessible to hashmap in addition to have its own methods. Now, let us see what are the different way that hashmap collection can be created. As I have already mentioned that it is not a single pair, it is basically single value, the hashmap should be key and then the object value itself. So, this is the composition that the collection should have. Now, the constructors those are there in hashmap, they are pretty simple, it is just similar to this one. So, the hashmap, this is a default constructor that we can have, this is the default constructor, we do not have to pass anything, but sometimes you can pass many information to it. For example, hashmap in capacity. So, initially when you are to create a map collection, you can mention what will be the size. It is for basically efficient memory management. If you say that okay, my collection have only size 100, you can mention it. However, the initial capacity that you mentioned, and if later on if you found that it requires 1000 entries to be maintained, then absolutely it is not an issue, because the size of the map collection automatically grow itself depending on the entries are there. Now, for this automatic or dynamic progression of this map collection, you can better for the memory management, if you know in which increment that the memory should grow. So, in order to do these things, you can mention the fill ratio. For example, 75%, if the 75% is filled, then you can go for increasing into another 10 size, or this kind of things are there. So, default capacity is 16th, but if you do not mention, for example, default constructor if you use, then a map will be created with the default capacity as 16. But if you can mention the flip ratio or say 0.5 or 0.8 or whatever it is there, it basically automatically grow these things. So, these are the few constructors those are there in order to create the map collection for your application. There are certain methods. Yeah, for the hash map also there is no exclusive method other than the method those are there in map interface. Now, let us come to the tree map. It is basically same as the hash map, only the difference is from the internal point of view, not that programmer's point of view. From the internal point of view is that hash map is basically stored using a indexed representation, whereas the tree map is used to store the data in a linked representation. Now, there are three representation I told, one is the indexed, another is the sequential, another linked representation. Array for example is an indexed representation, linked list for example is a linked representation or sequential representation rather, and tree structure is follows a linked representation. What is the linked representation? That we shall understand when we will discuss about the concept of tree that is there in the theory of computer science, data structure point of view. Anyway, so tree map is basically extension of the abstract class. It basically follows a tree concept, a tree structure to store the key value pairs for the different objects. So, two elements are to be there. So, it is a basically collection by virtue of key objects and value objects for each key value pair of objects each. Now, it also includes several constructors. The constructor first one is the default constructor tree map. The second is basically another constructor by which how the tree can be built. There actually you have to define the comparator method, because if you want to store user defined objects which has not the defined method of comparator, then you should define this comparator method in that user defined type and then use it here. And then tree map, it is basically the last constructor you can note, this basically tree map sorted map k extends beyond. So, here also the tree can be stored, tree collection can be stored using the concept of sorted map that we have already discussed about the interface. So, that can be is there. And again the tree map methods, if you see there are not any specific method, but those are the method specified by the navigable interface are there. So, this means that tree map methods includes all the methods those are there in the map interface as well as those are there in navigable map interface is the part of this interface. So, this is the tree map. Now, next is basically linked hash map class. Linked hash map class use the linked representation. It is actually a sequential representation, I can say sequential representation of the map collection object. So, here idea is that it is basically allow insertion order iteration. Actually the idea is that if you see the sequential representation, if you want to add a new entry into a collection, it always add in a particular order. So, ordering is basically in what order the element will be inserted. So, here all the entries will be stored in an order, but that order is not according to the key values. This order is according to the order of insertion. So, the first element which is inserted should be at the head or at the front, and then the last element will be at the tail, at the end actually. So, it is clear, and in so this way the elements are maintained in a sorted order. There are few constructors belongs to this class. The constructors are defined here. The default first one is the default constructors. The second one is basically the constructor supplying key values and object value both together if you want to add one entities. Then the third constructor is basically creating a map collection specifying the size, default size is 16, and then the last one is basically the size and field ratio both can be mentioned in order to create a new collection of type linked hash map. Now, there are certain classes also there. All the classes those are there in the map method are basically defined for this linked hash method. It does not have any special methods of it there, and two other methods, two other classes like identity hash map class and the first one is weak hash map class and the next one is identity hash map class. These two classes are basically for the use of Java developer, not for the programmer. So, it is basically at the system level development the Java developer defines those classes to be used for maintaining the Java packages and others. So, we should not, as the programmer does not have any interest of it, so we should not discuss in details about them. Now, finally, I will come to here that whatever the map collections we have discussed, they broadly can be categorized into four. One is hash map, which is of type index data structure, is follows. Tree map is basically follow link structure, and then the linked hash structure is basically sequential concept, and the enum map is basically follow a string structure or bit string form actually it is there. Now, regarding the discussion about all these collection concepts, you can consult the link that is given. The first link is basically useful link one, because it is discussed in a very user friendly, reader friendly manner. For advanced user, the Oracle tutorial document is very nice, you can go through it. In the Oracle tutorial document also you can find the discussion along with very small piece of examples to elaborating many things are there. Further, there are many what is called the net is also available in the net, like Jigs4Jig, Java T-point or all these things. They are also very nice representation for easy to understand concept it is there. Okay, thank you for your attention.